Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone. Today I baked these very delicious chicken buns. It was a try recipe and they turned out amazing. So I've made some more dough and filling to make this video. The buns are stuffed with a very moist and tasty chicken filling. I wanted to actually make the braided chicken bread, but I'm not very neat. So I came up with this style and made a bread shaped like this. And with the leftover filling, I made these spring rolls. अस्सलाम वालेकुम, आज हम बना रहे हैं चिकन बन्स और ये बहुत ही आसान और मज़ेदार रेसिपी है। मैंने लिया है मैदा, तेल, शुगर, चीनी जो होती है, नमक, मिल्क पाउडर, अंडा, यीस्ट, गरम दूध और ये सारी चीज़ें हमने मिला के अच्छी सी डो बनानी है जो ज़्यादा सख्त ना हो, सॉफ्ट और स्टिकी हो। I hope you enjoy this recipe. Let's get started. So here I'm adding everything to the flour apart from the sugar, yeast and warm milk. I'm adding the yeast to the sugar and I'm going to add in warm milk. 1 cup of warm milk will go in here, and then I'm going to add more warm milk as I'm mixing the dough. The milk was slightly hotter than what I needed, so I've let it sit for a couple of minutes to cool down, and then I'm going to add it to the yeast, and then that mixture is going to be added to the flour. यीस्ट और चीनी को मैंने गरम दूध में मिलाया है और फिर इसके साथ आटा गूंदना है। सबसे अच्छा तरीका इसका यही है कि हम हाथ से गूंदें, क्योंकि हाथ से फिर पता चलता है कि वो कितनी सॉफ्ट डो बनी है। अगर उसमें और दूध या उसमें और आटा मिलाना है, ये सारा कुछ पता चलता है। मिक्सर में इतना पता नहीं चलता है, तो मैंने फिर बार बार इसको रोक कर देखा है कि कितना ड्राई हुआ है। इसको ड्राई नहीं करना है, खुश्क आटा नहीं रहने देना, इसको बिल्कुल सॉफ्ट रखना है। और जो बाउल है, मिक्सर की बाउल है, इसके साइडों से ये चिपका रहे आटा। So the kind of dough that I'm trying to knead here is a soft one, not something that leaves the sides of the bowl. For example, when we're making roti or chapati dough, not like that. It needs to be soft and it needs to be sticking to the sides of the bowl. So I've kept it on a low speed and I'm adding splashes of milk here and there just to keep it soft. And this type of dough is best made by hand so that we can keep checking the consistency. I've made it in a mixer, but obviously it would have been much easier if I had done it by hand. The mixer just ensures that it's been kneaded well. This is how I wanted the dough, all soft and smooth, and it's sticking to the sides. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil over the top, wrap this up in some cling film and a tea towel and put it in a warm oven to rise. I had put the oven on before I started making the dough, and then I turned it off after about 10 minutes, so it's nice and warm in there, and this will sit in there for about 3 hours until it's risen. अब इसके ऊपर हमने थोड़ा सा तेल लगा के इसको गर्म जगह पे रख देना है ताकि ये फूल जाए। Here I've got my chicken. All I'm adding in here is 1 teaspoon of salt and some black pepper. It's just boneless chicken breast. You can also use a whole chicken, which I've used before, and then after boiling the whole chicken I shred it by hand, but I find using boneless is easier and it's just a lot more convenient. इस boneless chicken में मैंने सिर्फ नमक और काली मिर्च डाली है और थोड़ा सा पानी है आधा कप जिसमें ये गल जाए. I used about half a cup of water to cook this chicken in. Here's the rest of the ingredients that are going to be added to the chicken. So it's the onion. I've got a medium-sized onion, so I've got another half bit there. Otherwise you can use one large onion, half a block of butter. Full block of butter is about 250 grams, so 125 grams of butter. I'm going to just slice and dice the onion so it's very small pieces, and once the chicken is done, almost done is better, don't let it cook too much because then it'll get too dry. So I'm removing the chicken from the pan, and as you can see the chicken releases its own fluids as well, so we've got quite a bit of stock at the bottom there. I'm not going to get rid of that. I'm going to add my onion into it, the onion that I chopped up quite small. I'm going to wait for this chicken to cool down, then I'm going to shred it by hand, but in the stock there I'm going to add my onion. According to the recipe, I was supposed to fry the onions, but I didn't want to get rid of the stock, so I have just added my chopped up onions into the stock to cook. प्याज को मैंने चॉप करके चिकन के पानी में ही डाल दिया है और वो इसी में ही पकेगी. I'm going to cook the onions in this stock till they become soft. I'm chopping up finely 3 green chilies. The chilies I'm using today are not spicy at all, so I've got 3. Otherwise, I would have just used 1 or 2. The onions have cooked beautifully in the stock and they have become very soft. Now I'm going to add in the butter. I'm going to just cook them in the butter till it's melted, and then I'll add in the flour. And then I will cook the flour till it's nicely roasted and cooked in the buttery sauce before I add the milk. It's very important that I don't add the milk until I know the flour has been cooked properly. So I reduced the heat, I added the flour and I gently cooked it, and I kept stirring it for at least 2 minutes before I added the cup of milk. प्याज जब सॉफ्ट हो गई थी मैंने फिर इसमें बटर डाल दिया था, और जब बटर पिघल गया था मैंने इसमें आटा जो प्लेन फ्लावर है वो डाल दिया था. अब इस स्टेज पे मैं आटा जो है प्लेन फ्लावर उसको भून रही हूँ. अच्छी तरह से भून जाए ये 2 मिनट तक तकरीबन. फिर इसमें दूध डाल देना है और दूध डालने के बाद फिर इसको तेज़ी से मिक्स करना है ताकि ये सॉस तैयार हो. After adding the cup of milk, I stirred it quite quickly so that it created a smooth sauce. This is done now, so I'm going to keep it to the side. ये सॉस तैयार हो गई है तो मैंने इसको साइड पे रख दिया है, और ये जो चिकन है इसको हाथ के साथ ऐसे श्रेड कर लेना है. I shredded the chicken by hand and then added it into the sauce along with the green chilies. चिकन को श्रेड करने के बाद सॉस में डाल दिया है और साथ ही हरी मिर्चें भी, और फिर ये ऐसे मसाला तैयार हो गया जो हमने ब्रेड में लगाना है. After adding the chicken and the green chilies to the sauce, it will become quite thick, and this is ready now to be stuffed. I'm just going to taste it here to add anything extra if needed, but it was perfect. So I've emptied it out onto a tray to cool down so that I can start making the breads. It mustn't be made whilst the mixture is still warm. जो मसाला तैयार किया था वो ऐसे ट्रे पे लगा दें ताकि ये ठंडा हो जाए. जब ये ठंडा हो जाएगा फिर हम इसको ब्रेड्स में लगा सकेंगे. Here's my stuffing, it's all cooled down and my dough is ready as well. ये हमारी दोनों चीज़ें तैयार हैं, स्टफिंग भी तैयार है और ये आटा भी तैयार है. So I've just got a sheet of baking paper, baking parchment that I've crushed up because it tends to stay better in the pan when it's scrunched up and opened up again. So I've just got that ready. The oven is on at 180 degrees. I'm going to dry the countertop, dry it properly so that the dough doesn't stick to it. I'm trying to add as less flour as possible to the dough because I don't want to add too much flour and make it too much like a tough bread. So I've only sprinkled a little bit of flour onto the worktop and then just rolled this dough, a disc about 1/2 centimeter in thickness. This dough is one of the easiest doughs to work with and it bakes beautifully. Once I've rolled my disc out, I've got a teaspoon full of the mixture, teaspoon or 2 full of the mixture, and then placed it in the center of the disc of dough and lifted up one part, and with my other hand I gathered sections and gathered it up like this, turning the ball at the bottom. After gathering up all the dough at the top, we end up with something like this, and then that is all extra dough that can be just chopped off. The dough can be left there and just tucked in, but I don't like too much dough in the buns. So I've just taken the dough off the top, turned them round and just rolled them gently to neaten them up, and then I will cut slits with a very sharp knife over the top, just 2 slits, and then put them on the baking tray and then do the rest. I'm so sorry, उर्दू में मुझे बताना बहुत मुश्किल लगता है, लेकिन आपने देखा होगा कि मैंने कैसे ये आटे का राउंड सा बेल के पेड़ा, तो फिर इसमें मसाला डाला है और फिर जो ऊपर एक्स्ट्रा जो आटा था वो काट दिया था. It's locked down here, so there's no school, everything is online, and children do get bored at home. This is a great recipe to make with children. They can roll out the dough and it's not too sticky that it'll make a mess. And it's great to involve the children in cooking and other things at home, because on a normal day they're so busy with school and then rushing home from school and doing their other activities and homework that they're oblivious to what goes on at home. And since lockdown, I think they're learning more about what we do at home. My daughter here didn't want to make the buns the same way I did, so she's got her own technique here of gathering the dough up. There, she's done that, and she doesn't want to cut any excess off. She's made a beautiful bun, and we're just going to slit that at the top and put that into the baking tray as well. And because we are in lockdown, I think for me it's given me a chance to get to know my children more than I would have done in the normal routine running around. So I'm trying to use this time as positively as possible. Here, if you don't want to use a knife to take the top excess dough off, you can just pinch it all together and tear it away. It shouldn't make a big massive hole. It should be fine. And any extra bits I like to take off. I don't like the buns to be too much filled with dough, if that makes sense. I just like them to have a thin layer of dough and then the rest of it to be the filling. So here's our buns, they're ready. I'm just going to brush them with some egg, a whole egg with some oil in there, and my daughter sprinkled, she wanted to put some black seeds in there, kulunji seeds, which is Nigella seeds. So I've put some of them in the egg wash, and then we've sprinkled some on top as well. With the remaining dough, I decided to make a chicken bread, but I was unable to braid it very neatly, so I decided to still go ahead and make the chicken bread but change the design. So I'm just lightly dusting it with flour and gonna roll it into a rectangle shape. It's easier to actually put it onto the tray or the baking paper and then start the filling and the design that we're going to do. So now that I've got it onto the tray, I'm going to put the filling down the center. I'm going to pick up both ends of the dough, meet them together, and it'll be kind of the same principle where I lift it up higher and then chop off the extra dough. So this is all coming together, and I'm going to do the bottom and cut it along the bottom to give it a straight edge where I know the filling is still obviously inside the bread, so that all the excess, there, so it's not made a hole or anything, it's still all dough. And I'm going to do that from the top and the bottom, and this seam across the top as well. I'm going to take off all the excess dough there as well, and then turn the bread over. Now that this is done, I'm going to carefully turn it over, and then going to put some slits down the whole of the front and get the egg wash on and into the oven. This actually gives it a really pretty design, and it's so quick compared to braiding the bread. This will go into the oven now along with the buns for about 25 to 30 minutes. The buns have been baked. They are so soft and smell delicious. I'm gonna wait for them to cool down, but someone is in a rush. They're not letting them cool down. Yes, it's hot. So my daughter's gonna try and open up one of the buns to show you. The dough inside the buns was nice and fluffy. It didn't get soggy with the filling. buns were baked beautifully all round, even along the bottom. This one had also baked beautifully, and even though the design was very easy to do, it made it look quite eye-catching. I still had some extra filling left over, so I had these that I had bought from a local shop. They are supposed to be phyllo sheets. It's yufka sheets. Actually, phyllo sheets are quite easy to wrap, and these I found were very delicate. So I used 2 or 3 in each spring roll. I decided to make spring rolls with the rest of the filling. As you can see there, it's already ripped. So I used a couple or 3 sheets and just used up the rest of the filling. It was only a little bit, so I made about 6 of these spring rolls. I had to be very careful because the sheets are very delicate and they're drier than the normal other phyllo sheets that we buy normally to make samosas and spring rolls. I think these might not even be for what I used them for. These only took a couple of minutes to cook in a little bit of oil in a pan. I hope you enjoyed this lovely recipe. I hope to see you again with another video soon.